New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. Coming up in the next hour. Israel Hezbollah exchange heavy fire as Blinken pushes for peace. US concerned about reports of Israeli strikes on Lebanon military. Global condemnations pour in following deadly terrorist attack in Ankara. Türkiye hits PKK targets in northern Iraq. Syria in response. Electioneering intensifies ahead of November 5 presidential poll. Trump leads Harris 47% to 45% in latest poll survey. Severe cyclonic storm Dana set to make landfall on Odisha coast. High alert issued in West Bengal, Odisha. Heavy rain continues due to storm. And in sports, India looks to bounce back as they take on New Zealand in the second cricket test in India's Pune. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi returned home after successfully concluding his two-day visit to Russia, during which he participated in the 16th BRICS summit in Kazan. During the visit, Prime Minister also met several world leaders, including Chinese President Xi Jinping, Russian President Vladimir Putin, and UAE President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan on the sidelines of the BRICS summit. He described the BRICS summit in Russia's Kazan as very productive. He thanked Russian President Vladimir Putin, the people of Russia, and their government for their hospitality. Global leaders during the 16th BRICS summit in Russia's Kazan held deliberations on various pressing issues impacting cooperation among member countries. The leaders adopted the Kazan Declaration, in which the member states affirmed their commitment to the BRICS spirit of mutual respect and understanding, sovereign equality, solidarity, democracy, openness, inclusiveness, collaboration and consensus. Prime Minister Narendra Modi intervened in various sessions of the summit, affirming his support for the grouping and asked member nations to adopt policy dialogue and diplomacy for resolving contentious issues. Here's a report.
The 16th BRICS summit in Kazan marked a pivotal moment in global diplomacy as new members joined the group for the first time since its expansion in 2023. A unified message was sent to the world, stronger, united and ready to face global challenges together. During the plenary session, Prime Minister Narendra Modi emphasized a people-centric approach to problem-solving on the global stage and stressed the importance of reformed multilateralism. He praised BRICS for its achievements, which have reshaped the global economy.
नए स्वरूप में ब्रिक्स $30 ट्रिलियन से भी ज्यादा बड़ी इकोनॉमी है। हमारे आर्थिक सहयोग को बढ़ाने में ब्रिक्स बिजनेस काउंसिल और ब्रिक्स विमेन बिजनेस अलायंस की विशेष भूमिका रही है। इस वर्ष ब्रिक्स के अंदर WTO रिफॉर्म्स, ट्रेड फैसिलिटेशन इन एग्रीकल्चर, रेजिलिएंट सप्लाई चेन्स, ई-कॉमर्स और स्पेशल इकोनॉमिक जोन को लेकर जो सहमति बनी है, उससे हमारे आर्थिक सहयोग को बल मिलेगा।
Prime Minister Narendra Modi also raised pressing concerns from economic instability to climate change and terrorism, urging BRICS to take a leadership role in guiding the world towards the right path. He highlighted the new development bank's contributions to ensuring long-term financial sustainability and emphasized the need to build stronger economic ties, especially through supporting small and medium enterprises.
हमें स्मॉल और मीडियम स्केल इंडस्ट्री के हितों पर भी फोकस करना चाहिए। मुझे खुशी है कि 2021 में भारत की अध्यक्षता के दौरान प्रस्तावित ब्रिक्स स्टार्टअप फोरम इस वर्ष लॉन्च किया जाएगा। भारत द्वारा दिया गया रेलवे रिसर्च नेटवर्क का इनिशिएटिव भी ब्रिक्स देशों के बीच लॉजिस्टिक्स और सप्लाई चेन कनेक्टिविटी बढ़ाने में अहम भूमिका निभा रहा है।
In the backdrop of ongoing conflicts in West Asia and Ukraine, Prime Minister Narendra Modi reaffirmed India's commitment to peaceful resolutions through diplomacy and dialogue. He urged BRICS members to collaborate in ensuring food, energy, health and water security while also addressing new age threats like cyber deepfakes and disinformation. What began as a convergence of diverse ideologies in BRICS is now a beacon of positive cooperation, strengthened by its newly expanded membership. With Tripti Tripathi, Tanvi Taneja for DD India.
Union Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman said that India wants to enhance its influence in the world as 1 in every 6 person is Indian and the world cannot ignore India's economy. While participating in a panel discussion on the Bretton Woods institutions at 80 priorities for the next decade, organized by the Center for Global Development on the sidelines of the World Bank and IMF Annual Meetings 2024 in Washington, D.C., Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman said that much before the IMF reaches some countries in neighborhood in times of distress, India has given sums of money with no conditions attached.
Much before the IMFs of the world reach some countries in our neighborhood. And I'm not saying this with a sense of boast. I'm saying it more with a sense of responsibility. And again, sorry, I have no axe to grind with the IMF, but with no conditions attached. We have given sums of money, which I don't want to name here, number here, because my neighbors are very dear to me.
Right.
We've come out in time to help countries in distress.
She also said that India has followed policy of strategic and peaceful multilateralism. India has always stood in favor of multilateral institutions.
Thought of my Prime Minister came in, and this is well thought through. He once said India's priority is not to impose its dominance, in the sense we are the biggest democracy, we have in the world the largest population, but to enhance its influence. Now, why do we want to have our influence enhanced? It's only because the fact that today 1 in every 6 person in the world is an Indian. And you just cannot ignore our economy and the way in which it is growing. That's a second. And third, the skilled manpower which today is in India and also everywhere else running large corporations.
Prior to her US visit, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman was in Mexico from October 17 to 20th, where she interacted with political and business leaders from various sectors in both Guadalajara and Mexico City. The Indian Army is set to host the second edition of its flagship international seminar, the Chanakya Defence Dialogue, on October 24 and 25th at the Manekshaw Centre in New Delhi. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh will attend the event later in the day. Themed Drivers in Nation Building, Fueling Growth Through Comprehensive Security, this high-profile event will facilitate vital discussions on integrating security dynamics within national and international policy making and aims to craft visionary strategies for sustainable and inclusive growth. The two-day event will bring together an exceptional group of policymakers, strategic thinkers, academics, defense personnel, veterans, scientists and SMEs from India and abroad, with prominent speakers from the United States, Russia, Israel and Sri Lanka. The dialogue will explore India's strategic pathways towards Viksit Bharat at 2047, focusing on the role of comprehensive security in national development. The Chanakya Defence Dialogue will consist of 6 expert-led sessions, each focusing on critical aspects of comprehensive security. India has made a strong footing across the world for the medical advancements and elimination of vaccine-preventable diseases, eradication of polio being the most prominent one. World Polio Day is observed every year on 24th of October. In the report ahead, Preeti Kaur puts forth the strenuous efforts made in the country to successfully eradicate polio. Let's take a look.
Every year on 24th of October, we observe World Polio Day to raise awareness on the importance of polio vaccination to protect every child from this devastating disease and to celebrate the efforts of parents, professionals and volunteers whose contributions made polio eradication achievable. Poliomyelitis is a highly infectious viral disease that largely affects children under 5 years of age. The highly transmissible virus invades the nervous system to cause paralysis. India has made significant strides in its mission to eliminate vaccine-preventable diseases, of which polio eradication stands out. India completes a decade of being polio-free, marking a significant milestone in healthcare in the country. India reported the last case of wild polio virus from West Bengal's Howrah district in January 2011. After 3 years of maintaining the polio-free status, the World Health Organization on March 27, 2014 officially certified India as polio-free. India was once deemed the most difficult country in the world to end polio. Strong support from the Indian government, coupled with a new global push to eradicate the disease in the late 1980s, marked a turning point. Soon after, the vaccination campaigns led by millions of dedicated vaccinators and community mobilizers helped in easy accessibility of the vaccines to nearly every child in the country. Pulse Polio campaign with the slogan "Do Boon Zindagi Ki" proved to be a game changer. The main weapon in this fight comprised of a two-pronged approach: extensive vaccination campaigns to ensure that every child under 5 years received the polio vaccine, and a surveillance system under the National Polio Surveillance Project kept a check on any potential polio cases. From booth activities to house-to-house visits, mobile teams were introduced at major transit points. These efforts have helped India achieve and maintain its polio-free status so far. As we celebrate the 10th anniversary of India's polio-free certification, this remarkable journey serves as a beacon of hope in the ongoing global fight to eradicate polio. Preeti Kaur, DD India.
High alert has been issued in coastal areas of West Bengal's South 24 Parganas as Cyclone Dana is set to make landfall in eastern state of Odisha between night of October 24 and early October 25th. National Disaster Response Force teams and military rescue units are on standby to tackle the potential cyclone impact. India's Met Department forecasts heavy to extremely heavy rainfall in Odisha and Gangetic West Bengal, especially in districts like Baleshwar, Bhadrak, Kendrapara and Puri from October 24 to 26th. Health workers in West Bengal's Ganga Sagar area acted swiftly to transport the pregnant women to safety, keeping in mind the devastation caused by past cyclones. The women were evacuated to a rural hospital as part of the administration's preparedness for the storm. Ahead of the imminent landfall of Cyclone Dana, the wheels of train coaches at West Bengal's Shalimar Station rail yard have been secured with chains and locks. Southeastern Railway officials stated that powerful winds from the cyclone could cause the stationary coaches to roll, leading to potential accidents and damage to railway property. Meanwhile, Digha Coastal Police have begun alerting fishermen who are still out at sea, urging them to return immediately. Police boats are venturing into deep sea using loudspeakers to broadcast the warning. And high alert has been issued in the coastal areas of West Bengal's South 24 Parganas. Cyclone Dana is all set to make landfall in eastern state of Odisha between the night of October 24 and early October 25. The administration has already started giving some guidelines as to how to deal with Cyclone Dana when it lands. National Disaster Response Force teams and military rescue units are on standby to tackle the potential cyclone impact. India's Met Department forecasts heavy to extremely heavy rainfall in Odisha and Gangetic West Bengal, especially in districts like Baleshwar, Bhadrak, Kendrapara and Puri from October 24 to 26. And Professor Gopal Krishna Panda, former Professor of Geography, Utkal University, joins us from Bhubaneswar, Odisha. Sir, a very warm welcome to the broadcast. We would like to ask you that how do you see the Cyclone Dana? The warning has already been issued by the administration, and some tips on how to deal with it when it lands. What do you see the core reason behind it? Sir, am I audible to you?
हेलो
Sir, am I audible to you?
आवाज तो बहुत स्लो हो रहा है, फिर भी बोलिए अगर सुनाई दे।
Sir, am I audible? We are trying to reconnect with our guest who just now joined us, Professor Gopal Krishna Panda, former Professor of Geography, Utkal University, is joining us from Bhubaneswar, Odisha. All right, we are trying to reconnect with our guest. Meanwhile, still to come on DD India News Hour. German Chancellor Scholz travelling to India on Thursday for intergovernmental consultations. Bangladesh bans student wing of Sheikh Hasina's party under anti-terror law. Peruvians go back on strike over soaring crime, military dispatched to various parts of the country.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. Updates from West Asia conflicts now. US has expressed concern to Israel about strikes against the Lebanese armed forces. US Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, in a telephonic conversation with his Israeli counterpart Yoav Gallant, said that Washington had concerns about strikes against the Lebanese armed forces. Pentagon, in a statement, said that Austin asked Israel to take steps to ensure the safety and security of the Lebanese armed forces and the UN peacekeeping mission in Lebanon. Austin also told Israeli Defense Minister that Washington welcomed the movement of humanitarian assistance through the Erez crossing into northern Gaza and urged Israel take steps to address the dire situation there. Israeli strikes pounded Beirut's southern suburbs on Wednesday, while Hezbollah said it fired precision-guided missiles for the first time at Israeli targets. The strikes on the edges of Beirut sent thick columns of flames shooting up into the night sky, one after the other, shortly after an Israeli military spokesperson issued evacuation warnings for the neighborhood. Another strike hit nearby office of Media House. Hezbollah has meanwhile said that it had escalated its attack on Israel using precision missiles for the first time and launched new types of drones on Israeli targets. The group later said it had targeted an Israeli military factory on the outskirts of Tel Aviv. Around the time of Hezbollah's claim, air raid sirens sounded in Tel Aviv and neighboring cities. The intensifying exchanges of fire comes as Washington makes a final major push for peace between Israel and Hezbollah and Hamas before the November 5th US presidential election. All right, and DD India correspondent Akshay Dongre is joining us on West Asia Updates. Hi Akshay, good morning. Israeli strikes pounded southern Beirut. Now, what's the latest you're getting us on this?
Well, from the information that we are getting, Siddharth, that Israel is going to continue with the ground offensive as well as other kind of offensive operations that it has been carrying out rather against Hezbollah targets. The second part of the ongoing conflict and the ways of how this can be resolved is the fact that the Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, is right now in the region. First, he has met the Israeli officials, and now he will be meeting other country heads when it comes to finding ways to find resolution to this conflict is concerned. Now, how easy it is to find a resolution, that's a big question. It is not easy at all. The war has been going on, this conflict has been going on for over a year now. When it comes to the kind of, the operations that Israel has been carrying out, be it in Gaza or now in southern Lebanon, the countries there are not happy at all. In fact, the region came at the brink of an all-out war when Israel launched missiles and drones at the Israeli territory. The situation is extremely complicated. It's not just the United States now. There are other factors as well, other players as well when it comes to this conflict that are influencing the ongoing conflict. And Israel, with the continuous bombardment and continuous ground operations, it is highly unlikely that other players in the region, there is Saudi Arabia, then there is Iran, Qatar, where Antony Blinken may go or is likely to go. Then there are other countries like Jordan, Egypt. It's an entire region that is at the brink of war. So the United States of America will have to convince Israel as well to stop the operation before any peace talks can take place. As Prime Minister Narendra Modi himself has said when it comes to the BRICS summit as well, that any resolution of a conflict is not on the ground, but it is on the discussion table.
Correct.
Since the 7th October attack, there are no discussions taking place, and it has to start now.
Definitely, Akshay. You said it right. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi said that the solution cannot be on the battlefield, but dialogue and diplomacy is the only option through which a resolution could be found of this ongoing conflict. Now, Akshay, do you see something dialing down before the US presidential election on November 5th? Like you also said that Blinken is in the region, to talk to various leaders, and he will be discussing with them regarding, dialing down this conflict. Do you see this happening before the presidential election in United States of America, Akshay?
Well, Siddharth, I think that the United States is hoping to achieve something when it comes to the West Asian crisis is concerned, because they themselves are getting, their politics is getting impacted when it comes to this particular conflict. Because, it is being seen as a failure of the Biden government that they could not prevent this conflict from further escalating. So their efforts are on. But then again, Israeli, until and unless the Israeli and the other opposing sides, they decide to dial down the conflict and they decide to not, attack each other. The United States of America can't do much at this point of time, because even Israel knows that there can be a change of guard after the elections. So how seriously is Israeli leadership going to take the advice of the current administration? That is also a big question.
Definitely, Akshay. And if this continues, Akshay, it will also have a major economic impact on some of the countries in the world. In fact, many countries, in the world.
Well, absolutely. In fact, you look at the region, Siddharth. If you look at the region, this is an oil-rich region. This is a region from where a lot of trade used to pass. Now, many of the shipping containers or many of the shipping tanks are, taking up, circumnavigating through Africa to just avoid that region, because we saw the kind of attack that Houthis or the Hezbollahs have been trying to carry out against the container ships. So the situation had become extremely, complicated. And when it comes to the global trade is concerned, the world still relies a lot on oil that comes in from the region.
Correct.
Let's say a country like India has avoided all of that by getting the required oil from the countries like Russia. But that's not an option that is with a lot of countries. So yes, you're right that the global financial systems can get hampered, or rather hammered, if the conflict continues.
Definitely wonderful analysis, Akshay. We leave it there. Thank you so much. Leaders from around the world condemned a terrorist attack Wednesday targeting a defense industry facility in Turkey's capital. The US has condemned the deadly terror attack in Ankara.
I do want to start by extending our thoughts to the victims of the horrible terrorist attack in Ankara, Turkey this morning. Our prayers are with all of those affected and their families, and of course also the people of Turkey at this very difficult time. Now, Turkish authorities, as they've said, are investigating this as a possible terrorist attack. And while we don't yet know the motive or who is exactly behind it, we strongly condemn this act of violence.
Russian President Vladimir Putin also condemned the attack on sidelines of BRICS group summit that Turkey President Erdogan was attending as a guest. Putin said Moscow condemns any manifestations of terrorism. French President Emmanuel Macron also condemned the Ankara terror attack in the strongest terms. Macron said his country stands in solidarity with Turkey and the Turkish people against terrorism. Calling the terrorist attack horrific, German Chancellor also condemned all forms of terrorism in the strongest possible terms. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte also condemned the attack. In a social media post, Rutte said, "We strongly condemn terrorism in all its forms and are monitoring developments closely." He added, NATO stands with its allied nation, Turkey. European Union Foreign Policy Chief Josep Borrell also condemned terrorism in all forms in a post on X following the attack. He said the EU expresses solidarity with Turkey in this difficult time. At least 5 people have been killed and 22 injured after an attack at a state-owned aerospace company near the Turkish capital Ankara. Turkish Interior Minister Ali Yerlikaya said that 2 attackers and a woman and a man have been neutralized, adding that attack had most likely involved Kurdish rebel group, in fact, the PKK. No group has claimed responsibility for the attack.
When compared to previous similar attacks, we have a strong opinion that it is in the PKK terrorist organization. But as I said, it will become certain once the identities of the attackers are determined, which we will announce with you to the public, our saintly people.
Turkish authorities have imposed a media blackout on details of the attack, and users in large areas of the country have reported not being able to use social media. The PKK has been fighting against the Turkish state since the 1980s, calling for greater autonomy for the Kurds. Several countries list it as a terror group. In Bangladesh, the interim government led by Muhammad Yunus has banned Awami League student organization Bangladesh Chhatra League, and the Ministry of Home Affairs has issued a gazette notification in this regard on Wednesday amid the demand raised by the student movement against discrimination that spearheaded the movement against Bangladesh former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. According to the notification, over the past 15 years under the Awami League government, Chhatra League has been involved in various activities that disrupt public safety, including murder, rape, harassment in student dormitories and tender manipulation. Bangladesh Chhatra League was protesting against surge in rape and harassment of women for some days. Awami League leader Bahauddin Naseem condemned the interim government, saying that the ban on BCL is an attack on the spirit of liberation war and the constitution of Bangladesh. And still to come on DD India News Hour. We'll get you updates on US polls preparations and mood of voters from ground zero. US confirms North Korean troops' presence and training in Russia. World celebrates United Nations Day today when the UN Charter was adopted.
recycle, repair, renew. Are these cool trending terms or age-old traditions?
We started distributing the compost. The residents were really happy. It also made them understand the need for waste management, why segregation was important, because it was happening right in front of their houses.
Over the past years, we also expanded into the area of repair, and that obviously has an additional impact on saving e-waste, and that's an additional area where we see quite some potential.
The panels contain a lot of rare commodities, and you can save a lot of energy if you use recycled materials. It's also extremely important to keep those recycled materials here in Germany.
Biotanks, the sewage water gets recycled. It can be used for different purposes or drained into the ground.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. Updates on US presidential polls. Former President Donald Trump, the Republican presidential candidate, leads his Democratic rival Kamala Harris 47% to 45%. According to the latest polls, Trump and Harris are still virtually tied in the 7 key battleground states. Harris has a narrow lead in the blue wall states of Wisconsin, Michigan and Pennsylvania, as well as in Georgia. Trump is ahead in Arizona and North Carolina, while they are tied in Nevada. The poll surveyed 1,500 registered voters from October 19 to 22nd with a margin of error of plus or minus 2.5 percentage points. With just less than 2 weeks left in the upcoming US presidential elections, former US President Donald Trump addressed a rally in Georgia while Kamala Harris called him fascist. While taking part in a town hall in Pennsylvania, Harris reacted to the claims made by Donald Trump's former chief of staff, John Kelly, in an interview that Trump is fascist and said people like John Kelly won't be there in a second term.
And it is clear from John Kelly's words that Donald Trump is someone who, I quote, certainly falls into the general definition of fascist, who in fact vowed to be a dictator on day one, and vowed to use the military as his personal militia to carry out his personal and political vendettas. Donald Trump is increasingly unhinged and unstable. And in a second term, people like John Kelly would not be there to be the guardrails against his propensities and his actions.
Trump is campaigning in Georgia, the crucial battleground state where he held 2 events, starting with a town hall. Trump criticized his Democratic rival Harris, saying there are 15 different elements of policy that she changed.
There are 15 different elements of policy that she changed. She was in favor of sex changes for prisoners at their will, paid for by the government. And now she says, no, I don't think that would be a good idea. She was totally, I mean, when you talk about fracking, she had no fracking under, I mean, we have 25 commercials. Sometimes we put them on simultaneously. She's just, and now all of a sudden, I love fracking. I think it's wonderful.
All right, and DD India's Shubhendu Ghosh is joining us from Miami, Florida, and we also are being joined by Amritpal Singh, who's joining us from Austin, Texas. Hello, both of you gentlemen. First to you, Shubhendu. How's it going where you are right now? Miami. What are people saying there?
Right, Siddharth, that's right. Miami is where I am, the beach state of Florida. The early votings have started here, Siddharth, from 21st of October to 3rd of November, and it is seeing some really big numbers. Historically, the early voting is a subdued process, but this year we see an increasing number of voters interested in getting their vote through in the early voting round itself. What is even more interesting is that what is usually seen as an exercise where the Democrats dominate as far as early voters is concerned, here in Florida we're seeing a trend where the Republicans in large number are coming out to cast their vote much ahead of the big election day on November 5th. We spoke to some of them. They say that it's a crucial election, a lot is at stake, and therefore they don't want any reason to sort of miss the opportunity to cast their vote. So they don't want to wait till November 5th and want to take this opportunity of early voting to cast their vote.
Okay.
So in that sense, it's a neck-and-neck contest that we're witnessing here as far as the early voting trends are concerned. Similarly, similar to what we are witnessing in the swing states, as you just mentioned.
Okay. Stay with us, Shubhendu. I'll get back to you. Amritpal, Shubhendu just said it's neck-and-neck competition. You're in Austin, Amritpal. As the days are going, by the competition is becoming intense between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. Seems like neck and neck, like Shubhendu, is also mentioning right now. Which side is the wind blowing, Amrit?
Interestingly, both Shubhendu and I are in red states. Red states are the states which traditionally vote with the Republicans. These are states which both have been voting for Republicans for the past 45, 50 years. Interestingly, the voting both in the early is following what we see generally as compared to the last elections, that in early voting, as Shubhendu was rightly saying, that mostly Democrats tend to vote more in the early voting, but this time around pollsters are saying Republicans are voting. But it's still early because voting is on in different states, early voting is on in different states, and there are mail-in ballots, so you would only get to know finally when the figures are counted, because the Democrats are also mobilizing their voter base. This is only the registered voters that are professedly Republican and Democrat who are putting out that they voted early. So it comes down really to the swing states, and it's neck and neck, indeed neck and neck in the swing states, in Pennsylvania and Georgia, and that's why you see both candidates focus their energy in the swing states, trying to woo their own voter base. In fact, see if a crossover from the other side can come, and that's why you see a softening of narratives from the traditional lines that these parties have been taking, and you also see them going all out to woo the undecided voter, to reach out through ads, through personal rounds, knocking on the doors, and that's and the kind of money being raised. Look at what Kamala's been able to raise, $1 billion, far ahead of Donald Trump. So clearly it speaks about the kind of effort that's going on into campaigning, and most of the money is being spent in the swing states. Penn State, which is the crucial state as it has the maximum number of electoral votes as compared to the other states. 1 out of every $4 spent is spent on Pennsylvania. So that speaks of how the competition really is that close.
Okay, Amritpal, you're in United States since few days now, and we keep seeing your wonderful reports. You're at ground zero. We want to know some general sentiments among the people. What are people saying there? What are they expecting from these elections? Inflation is one issue, which we saw in your report. What are the other issues?
It is. Okay, what are the issues? Issues range from economy, jobs, the cost of living crisis, healthcare. Donald Trump has raked up the issue of illegal migrants, which indeed is an issue here because because of the paucity of jobs or the lack of jobs that are available. So these are the issues when you talk to people, that they tell you on what abortion is a big issue, especially for women, younger girls who are raped or get abused, and so these are the issues which matter to people.
Okay, stay with us, Amrit. Shubhendu, you're in a red state, like Amrit was also saying. Tell us something about the swing states,
Right, Siddharth. So, just to simplify, red states are the states that traditionally, at least for the past couple of elections, go with the Republican Party. Blue is referred to the ones that support Democrats. And the states which don't follow a pattern, which means that they could swing either way, due to the nature, are referred to as the swing states. The 7 swing states that have been recognized in these elections. We mentioned Pennsylvania, Georgia are 2 of the most important swing states. Pennsylvania right on top also for the number of electoral college votes that it stands for. So in that sense, it is broadly decided, barring these 7 states, which way the states are going to vote. But in these 7 states, the voters in these 7 states in many ways are going to determine the outcome of these elections. And as Amrit rightly mentioned, the importance of the undecided voters. Various surveys put the number at about 5 to 10% of the electorate in that county or in that state. They are the people who are going to finally determine who has the edge. And just as we are watching, the polls are coming in every day and it's a neck-and-neck contest. It is likely that whoever turns out to be a winner is also going to be a winner by a whisker. And in that, the swing states, Siddharth, are going to play a big role.
Definitely. It's a neck-and-neck fight. Gentlemen, both of you, wonderful reports by you and wonderful assessment here when I ask you questions. Thank you so much. We'll leave it there, but we'll keep taking updates from you. With 2 weeks left in the US presidential race, Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump are intensifying their efforts to win votes in key battleground states. Though some surveys are giving a slight edge to Harris over Trump, American voters, especially the Indian Americans, are divided right from the middle. DD India's Amritpal Singh caught with some voters in Austin, Texas. Listen in.
With the election day just 2 weeks away, the latest poll done by Reuters suggests that Kamala Harris may have a 3-point lead over Donald Trump. Democrats to Republicans, 45 to 42 percentage points. While that may be good news for Kamala, because if she indeed is able to maintain that lead, it clearly means a win for her. But don't count Donald Trump out yet, because it's not about the number of votes polled here in the United States. It's not a first past the post system. It is actually a winner takes it all system. As in where I am in Texas, the state has 40 seats. If either party takes 21, all 40 go that party's way. Traditionally, Texas has voted for the Republicans. It's called a red state. But Kamala Harris will be here this week to woo voters, focusing more on abortion bans and the harm that has done to society. She's trying to woo women by that. While Donald Trump is campaigning hard in the swing states of Wisconsin, Michigan, Donald Trump is trying to woo voters on the issue of national security, illegal immigration, and tax cuts for reviving the U.S. economy. Clearly, the voter is also divided right from the middle.
I have seen my friends and other people who are saying that, oh, we want to have one president, and especially who is from Indian origin. So that's why, yes, the women are very excited that she is running for president.
They are much better adapted to us because we are all migrants from India and we are all hardworking. We do a lot of hard work here. So I would go with Democrats.
जो ट्रम्प की पॉलिसीज़ हैं वो देश के लिए अच्छी पॉलिसी हैं क्योंकि वो सीधी क्लियर बात कर रहे हैं जो देश के लिए उन्हें करना है और कमला हैरिस जी है कि वो बात घुमा के बात कर रहे हैं.
So clearly it's a divided house, and the divide runs right from the middle of the American society. That's what makes it a very, very tight race, and this election interesting. With cameraman Sanjay Jaina, this is Amritpal Singh for DD India in Austin, Texas.
Traveling to India on Thursday for the intergovernmental consultations, DW's political correspondent Thomas Sparrow from Berlin tells us how important are these intergovernmental consultations.
Well, indeed, these intergovernmental consultations are important from a German perspective. They are seen as a rather exclusive, high-level format. It's a format that essentially the German government only develops with a handful of countries with which it wants to cooperate very closely. And they are relevant also because they encompass not only meetings between the heads of government, but also between the respective cabinets. And in this particular case, the German-Indian consultations have officially three main areas of discussion: innovation, sustainability and mobility. But it's clear that beyond these topics, both governments will also probably discuss some key international challenges like the wars in Ukraine and the Middle East, migration or climate change. And while it's probable that both governments will want to highlight their increasing cooperation, it is also evident that in some of these challenges, some of these global challenges, and in particular when it comes to Ukraine, both countries have not always seen eye to eye.
For the first time, the US has confirmed evidence of North Korean troops in Russia. US officials revealed that around 3,000 North Korean soldiers were transported to the Russian city of Vladivostok by ship in early to mid-October. From there, they were moved to various military sites in eastern Russia for training. Peru's military have been dispatched to various parts of Peru to bolster police forces as transport workers went on their third strike in less than a month to protest against soaring crime and extortion. At the end of September, the government declared a state of emergency in 14 districts around Lima to let the military help police fight crime. On Wednesday, the capital Lima was at a standstill as people struggled to get to work with no public transport. Most stores were closed as many workers joined the strike, some calling on the government to ban the use of firearms. President Dina Boluarte promised swift action against both national and foreign criminal ringleaders. Boluarte said the protest has become politicized at a time when her popularity hit rock bottom at 4% according to a poll. World is celebrating United Nations Day on October 24. This is the day in 1945 when the UN Charter was adopted, including 5 permanent members of the Security Council. India, along with many other countries, are demanding reform in United Nations to reflect the realities of the present world, with India's inclusion in the Security Council as its permanent member, along with few more new deserving nations. DD India correspondent Shubhendu Ghosh talked exclusively to India's permanent representative to United Nations in New York, Ambassador P. Harish, on the road ahead for the global body. Listen in.
October 24th is observed as United Nations Day. We are in New York and I have with me India's permanent representative at the UN, Ambassador P. Harish. Help us understand the importance of this day and given the security geopolitical crossroads that the world finds itself in, where does UN stand today?
The focus of this General Assembly session is leaving no one behind. 2 years of the pandemic, and thereafter, multiple wars and crises around the world has meant that we have missed our sustainable development targets. The effort of the international community, all nations gathering at the UN, has been to do a reboot of the multilateral system. This reboot of the multilateral system is going to impact positively all dimensions of the UN system. And last but not the least, on what we can all do together to combat climate change.
In all of this, how do you see India's evolving role with the United Nations as a founding member and partner?
For us, it is most important that we harness the UN system and the various frameworks for our own national growth and development. While a lot of focus remains on peace and security, and the Council on what it is able to or not able to do regarding international crisis, I think it is in this arena that we make the best impact globally and especially with our friends and partners in the developing world.
The demand for reform of multilateral institutions such as the UNSC has been long pending. What can we say is the road ahead in that regard?
What we are seeking to work in the intergovernmental process in the weeks and months ahead is to ensure that we move and transition to the next stage of a text-based negotiation in a time-bound framework.
This was India's permanent representative to the United Nations talking about the United Nations Day and India's role in this global body. With camera person Jaishankar, Shubhendu Ghosh for DD India in New York.
Time now for some business news. Innovation and entrepreneurial focus has paid rich dividends for India with various initiatives for the government. What started as a handful of startups and unicorns has helped stamp its mark in the last decade. The 1.4 billion population nation is turning from job seekers to job creators and fulfills India's dream of shaping Vikasit Bharat.
If you look at Startup India, Stand Up India, at that time, we didn't have many startups. Today, we have almost 110,000 startups, the third largest in the world. And then we used to, before 2014, we had 4 unicorns, and today almost 112 unicorns, right?
ITU WTSA 2024 saw Innovations Exchange Program on the sidelines, which has the potential to be the game changer in global technological collaborations. This would help innovations flourish at the big stage as it unites international tech leaders in emerging technologies with young minds of the world brimming with ideas.
Innovation Exchange is nothing but bringing the best people from across the world, right? Whether you take it from University of Chicago and our IITs, you are bringing researchers and startup people, and there will be a mentor that is facilitated by ITU. So when you combine all those people, they will show the practical problems. Whether is it really a solvable problem, or is the problem really needed, and what are the best ways to solve.
Boeing factory workers voted to reject a contract offer and continue a more than 5-week strike in a blow to investor and management hopes of a resolution to the dispute. The vote was 64% in opposition to the deal, which offered a 35% rise in wages over 4 years. Union leaders said they were ready to immediately resume negotiations with Boeing on the first new contract since 2014. Over 30,000 machinists downed tools in Boeing's West Coast factories on September 13, halting production of the best-selling 737 MAX. Since then, Boeing and workers' union have been locked in negotiations, with both sides accusing the other of torpedoing talks. You're watching DD India News. Our time now for sport. And India look to bounce back in the second test against New Zealand starting from Thursday in Pune, aiming to keep their hopes alive for qualifying for the ICC World Test Championship 2025 final. After losing the first test by 8 wickets due to overcast conditions and an underwhelming batting in display, India must win 3 of their remaining 7 matches in the WTC cycles to stay in contention. Reports suggest that Pune pitch will be low and slow, favouring spinners. The addition of Washington Sundar to the squad alongside spinners R. Ashwin, Ravindra Jadeja and Akshar Patel signals India's intent to rely heavily on spin. Sundar's inclusion adds depth to the spin attack as India adjusts their strategy for the must-win match. Zimbabwe set a new T20I world record with a staggering total of 344 in the ICC Men's T20 World Cup Sub-Regional Africa qualifier against Gambia on Wednesday. Zimbabwe surpassed Nepal's previous benchmark of 314 when they achieved against Mongolia during Hangzhou Asian Games in 2023. Leading the charge was skipper Sikandar Raza, who delivered an extraordinary knock of 133 off just 43 balls with 15 sixes and 7 fours. Raza marked his place in history as the first Zimbabwean to score a century in T20 internationals. Raza's blistering innings was filled with aggressive strokes as he dominated the Gambia bowlers, hitting boundaries and clearing the ropes with ease. That's all for this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. The app is available on both platforms, Android and iOS, and you can scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.